Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. For today's card, I used the birthday numbers stamp set from Simon Says Stamp's STAMPtember release. Now this stamp set has a bunch of really big numbers that are great for making birthday cards, but it also has a few other images in it that I'm going to be using for this card. I actually didn't use any of the numbers for this. I just used the cupcake image, the present image, and the party hat, and a couple of the stars from the stamp set. So I'm creating a background with those stamps, and I'm stamping with Versamark ink onto some Canson watercolor paper. In between all of the stamping, I am adding my white embossing powder, and that's just because I was having a difficult time seeing the images. So when I put the embossing powder on there, I can see it, so I make sure that I don't accidentally stamp over any of the other images that I already stamped on there. It is going to be a little bit difficult to see all of the images in the video until I add a little bit of color later. Once I had all of those images stamped, I heat embossed them, and then I taped my paper down to a board. So I have a bunch of different colors on my palette, and my original plan was to use all of those colors and paint each one of the images individually and then do the background. But here's what happened. So I was doing this card right in the middle of my sickness. I was very sick when I did this card, and I'm just now getting over that sickness. So my voice is probably still a little bit froggy, but I am feeling a lot better. But halfway into doing that first cupcake image, I was like, no, there's no way I want to paint every single one of these images. So I went for the easier route. So instead of painting each one of these images individually, I chose 3 of the different colors that I have on my palette, and I went across the background with them. And because my images are all embossed, that embossing resisted the paint. And the paint that I used for this background is my Gonzai Tommy watercolors, and I used color numbers 63, 38, and 37. Once the paint was all dry, I decided to come in with my Prismacolor pencils and go over the images to make them stand out a little bit more. I chose to use just 3 different colors for the coloring here. I used my white colored pencil, I used PC 903, and PC 932. When I first started coloring this, I was just going to use the white pencil and the violet one, but a little ways into the coloring, I decided I wanted to throw in a blue color. So I pulled out that blue pencil and added that to the mix. When I colored in these images, I started out by laying down a layer of the white pencil, and then I came in with the colors. Having the white layer underneath really makes those colors pop. Now that you can see the images a little bit better, you'll notice that I have a bunch of the star images stamped in between the bigger images. And I really used those star images as kind of a filler to fill up that empty space. And I colored those stars in with just my white colored pencil. This coloring did take a decent amount of time, and I did have to speed it up a little bit for this video, but it still took a lot less time than it would have taken if I had decided to paint each one of these images individually. Okay, once I had all of those colored in, I took my white gel pen and I randomly added a bunch of little dots all around the background. After I filled up all of those empty areas with those dots, I also added some highlights to some of my images. Adding these highlights also really helps to make these images stand out a little bit more against that background. I pulled out my Wink of Stella glitter brush and I went over each of the little stars to add a little bit of sparkle. At this point, I was realizing that this background is a little bit busy, so I know that I don't really want to add sequins to this card at the end. Another thing to keep in mind if you have a busy background is to keep everything else pretty simple. So I stamped a sentiment, and this is from that same stamp set, and I stamped this onto some Basil Licorice Twist cardstock, and I heat embossed it with a white embossing powder. I used a bunch of foam tape to pop up my watercolor background onto an A2 size card base. Now that card base is a white card base, but I adhered a piece of the Basil Licorice Twist cardstock to the front of it. Next, I took my happy birthday sentiment and I popped it up onto the card. The last thing that I did to finish up this card is I took my white gel pen and I went around the border with some dashed lines. And then this card is all done. And here's a closer look at how it came out. Thank you for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this card using the birthday numbers stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. All of the supplies that I used for today's card can be found in the description down below. If you enjoyed watching today and you have not yet become a subscriber to my channel, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. I'm going to be back with a new video on Wednesday. Again, thank you for watching. I really appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a great day today.